Okay, so today we are going to see that what are first world, second world, and third world countries. So you know that there was World War II, and after World War II, the post World War II era was actually a Cold War era. Now, what is Cold War? So Cold War is a kind of indirect war, a war in which there is no direct invasion or firearms or military. Uh, People are not used. There is no battle, but the war is in terms of many things. Like say, the two countries that were standing against each other during the Cold War. One was U.S., the other was USSR, which is also called as Soviet Union. So there used to be a lot of competition between this country. For example, the US used to, in order to condescend USSR, used to do great research and development work in space technology, in defense technology, and USSR in I can say in response, it used to also do a lot of research and development in its own space and defense sectors and various other sectors. So they used to compete each other in terms of who is more powerful. We have see so many good defense equipments. And what about you? So it was kind of a very peace war full of competitiveness. Okay. So now, what is the period of Cold War? So the period of Cold War, one can say, uh, is from 1947 to 1991. We cannot say this period exactly because still you can see after the dissolution of USSR, there is still Cold War going between US and Russia. Anyways, on a very broad terms, we can say that the Cold War lasted from 1947 to 1991, the date when USSR was dissolved. Okay, so during the Cold War period, okay, there were various terms used like first world countries, second world countries, and third world countries. So what these terms mean in this context? Great. So as I told you that there was war going between USA and USSR. Countries which were in the side of USA were like Canada, UK, Australia, sorry, this is L, New Zealand, then many European countries. We can see them in this map. So we even have France and Germany, but let's say take some Eastern countries like Japan and South Korea and South Africa and then Iran. Here we have Oman and so on. So these are the countries who were allies or who supported USA during the Cold War. Okay. On the other hand, we were having a group of countries which were in the side of USSR, and they were like China, Cuba, and many countries. You can see some Eastern European countries are also part, but at that time, yes, Eastern European countries were themselves a part of USSR. So I can say Vietnam, not many countries in this group. Okay, now there were some countries that did not support it, either of them, and these countries had a separate category, separate group, and they were like India, Pakistan, Philippines, then most of the Africa. I should write here most Africa and South America, and so on. Okay, so in order for you to just 1 second, yes. So in order for you to understand this map, I should give some information like the blue color countries are the first world countries, the red color countries are the second world countries, and the green color countries are the third world countries. So now you can understand clearly that this group of countries is the first world countries, this group of countries is the second world countries, and this group of countries is the third world countries. This group and categorization was in context of Cold War era. Yes, but as time passed on, okay, these definitions now degraded or deviated from their original meaning to mean some other things. Okay, so let's take a look at most of the first world countries, or the prominent first world countries, the prominent second world war countries, world countries, and the third world countries. So let's look at them clearly. We have US, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, France, Japan, South Korea. Okay, so how are these countries? These countries are industrialized, high income countries. They have uh, good literacy, okay, and they are economically stable. Okay, now how is the political ideology in these countries? So political ideology in this country is capitalistic ideology. Great. Now let's look at some second world countries like USSR and China. How are these countries? These countries are industrialized, uh, not as industrialized as the first world countries, yeah, but substantially industrialized. Then middle to high income. I can say yes, good literacy in these countries, and quite stable. Not rich, but they are stable. But they have a different ideology, a different political ideology. And what is this? Communists. They are communist. They believe that the control should be in people's hand. So they have a different political ideology. Now there are third world countries. So some prominent one like India, Pakistan, Philippines, most of Africa, and Southern America. Now let's see how these countries are. These countries not very much industrialized, or say they are newly industrialized if they have really industries and good infrastructure. So next is they have low income, poor literacy, not stable economically. And what is their political ideology? Their political ideology is somewhere, or it's vague. It's vague, or say not particular. So now, because most of the first world countries had these characteristics, the first world term came to mean something else. Similarly for second world and third world. Now there are some exceptions. Like if you look here in the list, we have countries like Iran, and then some countries here you can find this country. I guess this is I don't know which country is this. After Myanmar, if I see the map of world, I can just tell which country it is. This Thailand. Okay. So anyways, I just wanted to say the thing that there are exceptions in first world countries. Let's see, Turkey should belong to this list. Okay, so there are some exceptions in first world countries which are not having these traits, like Turkey, Oman, Iran, and another thing is that they are democratic, and these countries are not very much democratic, kind of vague democracy in there. And these countries, they have democracy, dictatorship, I should not use the word dictatorship. I'm sorry, I should use the word monarchy. So these countries have monarchy. Okay. So there are some exceptions, as I said, like in the first world countries list. Then there are some exceptions in the second world countries list, like Cuba and Vietnam, who are not having these traits of second world countries. And then again, when we come to a list of third world countries, then there are again exceptions, like countries like Finland. And which country is this? Just need to check in the map. Sweden. Okay, great. So Finland and Sweden are the countries who do belong to the list of third world countries, but are not having these characteristics. Rather, they have these characteristics of first world countries. So, even though there are some exceptions, taking the exceptions aside and considering some prominent nations in each list, people started having stereotypes in their mind. And as I told you, that these terms, as the Cold War began to cease, began to end after 1991, or during the time of 1990s, or coming closer to 1990, or after 1991, you can say anyway. So during that time, these terms came to mean, came to classify countries based on these characteristics. In general, I can say based on the economic development of these nations, of how rich they are, how middle class they are, and how poor they are. Okay, so people started having these stereotypes, and these things become so widespread that it became a accepted notion. It became a general notion. So now it depends on you that how you should look at these terms. There is no perfect definition of first world, second world, and third world countries, but it just depends upon the speaker and in what context he or she is speaking. So, if you ask me, I will tell you the fact that in present times these terms are used, but people use these terms in context of referring to a country who is rich, who is poor, that means in context of their economic development in the modern time, or in this I should not say modern time, but in this time of 21st century. So people have started using these terms, and these are very common, used very commonly by people. So they have started using these terms to mean in context of economic development of nations. Okay. So even though there are exceptions, you can just ignore. Okay, it depends on what context are you speaking. If you are speaking in context of the Cold War era, remember these distinctions. But if you are speaking in terms of economic development, which is how most people take it, just go by that thing that the first world countries are highly developed countries, the second world countries are developed, kind of, not very much, but yes, better than third world countries, and third world countries are developing countries. So there are some synonymous terms that we can use to refer to first world, second world, and third world countries. So if I want to tell a synonymous term to first world country, that then it will be highly developed countries. Second world countries, developed countries. Third world countries, developing countries. Mostly they are poor nations. They include most of the Africa and India. And this world map is in context of the in context of the definition of these terms in context of Cold War. Okay, this is not in context of economic development, because if you look at this map, you will find that the countries labeled as third world are Sweden and Finland also, which are economically stable, developed. Then countries like Saudi Arabia, which is also doing great economically, is also green in color. So I hope you understood that what are first world, second world, and third world countries. Always remember that in today's times, if anyone, unless and until he mentions that he is speaking in the context of Cold War, you have to understand, or you have to know, that he is referring to developed countries, highly developed countries, and developing countries. That's all for now.